Now, in this session of 30 Days of Persuasion, I am going to give you a breakdown of the persuasion principles used in Game of Thrones over and over again, and what we can learn from those principles and how we can use them in our own lives and in our own businesses. My name is Bushra Azhar. I'm the founder of the Persuasion Revolution, and I teach tiny businesses how to make big bucks using the psychology of persuasion. So what happens when Daenerys Stormborn tells the slaves that your masters may have told you lies about me, but I'm not here to speak to them. Instead, I'm only here to speak to you. She's using a really kick-ass persuasion principle called the parity switch, which is all about dividing your people or taking your people away from them and creating a sense of us versus them. It is super powerful and it works in almost every situation. Jon Snow did the exact same thing when he was trying to get a support for his cause with creating an us versus them with living versus the undead. Right? I know, I'm a little bit late to the game. The Game of Thrones is all done and dusted, and people have already shed all their tears. But I still want to do a breakdown as part of the 30 Days of Persuasion, because I feel there are so many things that we can learn, and all of the principles that I have been beating you over the head with for the past so many days, you will see them manifest in Game of Thrones in every single character. I'm not going to do every single character, but I promise you will go, aha! So that's what was going on. So leave a comment. Let me know that you're here. In the meantime, I will also share this broadcast with someone, and you should too, because everyone loves Game of Thrones. And even if you don't, you will still benefit from the dissection of the persuasion principles that actually went on into the game and into the characters and into the book themselves. I read the whole series first, and then I only watched this. I read the whole series of book first. I only watched the actual series, the TV series, probably a few months ago. So either way, these principles are amazing and extremely practical. So please share this broadcast with someone, because again, it's not every day that people try to implement the principles in Game of Thrones in real life and business, right? Okay, I'm going to share this, and you should too, because it is awesome and you are awesome. Okay. So Game of Thrones is super popular, and there are characters that we love, and there are the characters we don't love, hint, hint, little finger. But whether or not we love them, we see them doing things that you don't expect people to do. We see them winning wars where you never expected the war to be won, but you're just amazed at how well it's working. And it doesn't seem like it would work in your life, but I'm going to show you how it worked. So the very first principle that I started the session with, and I want to expand on, is this principle of the parity switch, where you constantly remind people, no matter who you're talking to, you're constantly reminding them how you are different from everyone else, like Daenerys Stormborn did, where she created an us versus them, trying to remind them. So she showed up with her free army of, the people, the eunuchs, I don't know what it was, but she showed up with that army, and then she showed it to them and said, these are all free men. They're here by their own choice. So that, and then that reminding them what they're missing out on, it's something that we can all learn from. Creating this sense of this is who you are if you hang out with me, versus this is what you are or who you are if you hang out with someone else. This is called the parity switch. And human brain is naturally inclined to always do compare and contrast. We're always comparing and contrasting. No matter what choice we're trying to make, we're always doing this comparison. So your job as a persuader is to facilitate that comparison, to step in and tell them, let me show you how it's different. Let me show how we do things differently. I call it the parity switch, constantly reminding people how you are different, what your parity points are. And if you want to know more about parity switch and how to flip it, how to activate it in your own business, you should check out my best-selling book on persuasion called The Mass Persuasion Method. The book is available on Amazon, and when you order a paperback, you also get bonuses. You can go check it out at bit.ly/npmbook. I will also leave the link once we're done with this, but this is just one of the switch, right? Switch number 2 that you see, my favorite character on Game of Thrones is Tyrion Lannister's, and everyone's favorite character is Tyrion Lannister. But one of the things that you see Tyrion use over and over again is again a switch that I talk about in my book, I talk about in my teachings, which is edutainment. Now, he has a joke or a quip or a witty response for every situation. Not everyone appreciates his humor all the time, but this is what those quips and those humor and that joke or quip or witty response does. It changes the frame. It loosens up the tension in the conversation. And he has been in multiple situations. He's been sentenced to death twice. And every time he's stuck in that seemingly impossible position where you don't really see it's possible to get out, he will get out by use of quick wit, but also by cracking a joke or by saying something that loosens up the tension. Not only does it loosen up the tension, but it also breaks their frame. So they're out to rob him, they're out to kill him, they're out to kidnap him for ransom, whatever. And you see him breaking that frame by cracking a joke. Now, in the series, you don't see a lot of the other things that Tyrion went through, which in the book, he went through a lot more shit. But you don't see that happen. You don't see all of that in the series itself. But every time he's trapped in a seemingly impossible position, he cracks a joke and tries to break the frame and loosen up the tension. So this is my recommendation to you. Not only should you be using humor and wit and quip and appropriate jokes to get out of a tense situation, to get out of a situation where you feel uncomfortable and you feel like you've been put on the spot, but also use them proactively. Because when you are in a selling situation, you're trying to sell something, if you're trying to sell, the other person, their brain is in a fight or flight, right? So they're thinking, oh my God, I'm being sold to. This is a tense situation. That's the feeling their brain is giving them. But when you crack a joke, when you say something funny, it loosens up the tension. It breaks their frame, and they go from being on an edge, trying to stay away from the sale, trying to avoid being sold to, and instead they step into the role of, oh, I'm enjoying this conversation, right? It breaks their frame. Number 3 is believability. Again, in believability, the way I talk about believability switch, which is one of the 8 persuasion switches, I talk about how you need to convince your prospective buyers about why you are the right choice, but also you need to convince them why they are capable of those results. And Daenerys did it so well in Game of Thrones. She had those tiny little kitten-like dragons, right? They were not even, they were babies. And she started drumming on all about my dragons, my dragons, my dragons, my dragons, when dragons were nothing more than small, tiny kittens. It's just a way of creating believability. She positioned dragons as a strength. And in doing so, she made people believe that they can actually get those results. She made people believe that they can, win. She made slaves believe that they can actually eradicate slavery. Now, honestly, the dragons themselves were nothing. It was just the framing, this conviction that allowed her to convince them to not just believe in her, but also believe in themselves. And this is really what believability comes into play. When you're trying to sell to someone, if you're constantly trying to tell them how great you are or how awesome you are or how awesome your dragons are, but if you have dragons, why are you even listening to this? Just go on, rule the world. Don't listen to me. Go, go, go. But in case you don't have dragons, but you're trying to convince the other person how great you are, you miss out on something really important, which is their own belief in themselves. The reason most people don't end up buying is not because they don't believe you or they don't believe your product. It's because they don't believe in their own abilities. And this is where your role comes in as a persuader. You got to convince them with absolute conviction that they can do it, just as Daenerys did when she tried to convince the slaves that they can break the shackles, that they can be free men. She showed them this army of free men that she walked in with to convince them that they were just like them. They were slaves, but now they are free men. So you got to convince your buyers, your prospective buyers, that you too can equip them with whatever is needed so they too can get the results. That self-doubt, that self-negative talk that's stopping them from taking action, it's your role to eradicate it. So stop just talking about how awesome you and your dragons are, and instead start talking about how they can break those chains. Simple, yeah? Okay, next up. Oh, if you're enjoying this, give me a thumbs up. Give me something so I know that you're enjoying this. I know everyone loves Game of Thrones, but even if you don't love Game of Thrones, I'm pretty sure I've convinced you enough to now go check out Game of Thrones. But in any case, if you're enjoying this breakdown, if you're enjoying this this session from today, please give me a thumbs up or hearts or something so I know that you are actually engaged and you're listening to this and you are fully engaged, because I want to know that you're engaged. And also, please take lots of notes, because these are super practical tips that you can implement. And the 8 psychological switches, I'm not going to break down all 8, but the few that I am breaking down here, they are super important. If you activate those switches, the person that you're trying to persuade, they literally have no control over their emotions. They cannot help but fall in love with you. They cannot help but buy from you. They cannot help but say yes to you. And that's why these principles are important. So give me a thumbs up, give me some hearts, share this broadcast with someone. Let's spread the message of Game of Thrones. No, not really Game of Thrones. Let's spread the message of non-icky persuasion to the masses so we can have less leads and more sales. Yeah? Yeah, cool. Okay, next up, desirability. And this is such a beautiful scene. Even if you can't find, don't want to watch the entire Game of Thrones, I encourage you to watch this particular scene where Daenerys walks into the city of Meereen. Now she walks into the city of Meereen. It's a walled city. It's very well protected, and she needs to take it over. Now she does not take it over by blasting into it, even though she has the army and she can actually barge in and she can kind of take over the city. Instead, she does something really smart, which is where desirability comes in. So desirability switch is all about showing people, showing your prospective buyers, or showing the people you're trying to persuade how their life is going to be after they have said yes to you. So after they've said yes to you, what is their life going to look like? Now, she cannot do that when she's standing outside the city of Meereen. She cannot, start a projector and project the life of happy slaves and, just drinking wine and just lounging around. A, that's not happening. And B, she's not really capable of doing that, but she still wants to activate the desirability switch. She wants them to see what the life is going to look like as free people and how she can give it to them. So what does she do? She blasts those, I don't even know. She uses this, the thing that blasts the cannons into the walled city, and she blasts those, and people are expecting to be blasted with cannons and fire, right? They're expecting to be blasted, but what does she blast? She knows that all slaves are out there watching her, so she blasts broken slave collars. That's it. That's what she blasts. What a genius way to do that. Because what she's doing this, she says, I'm not blasting fire or bullets or cannons. I'm not trying to kill you by force, but I'm going to show you these broken collars, because this is what I promise. Your collars will be cut away, your shackles will be broken, and you will be free people. This is the life after dream. In just blasting those broken, those cut off slave collars into the city of Meereen, every slave who picked it up, and it's a beautiful scene to watch where the slave picks it up and looks at the collar, and you can see on their face that they are visualizing what the life after is going to look like. Beautiful thing to behold. And this is what desirability is. You don't even have to write super long paragraphs. You just have to give one hint to your prospective buyer how their life is going to be after. If you are going to use words, then paint a picture that is so vivid that they can see themselves living that life. If you're going to write it down in an email, then make it extremely vivid. If you're going to share a video or something that conveys the same message, try to make it as vivid and as punch in the gut as possible. It should not be subtle. It should be extremely punchy, and it should make them wake up and think, oh my God, is that what awaits me if I say yes? Is that what my life will be if I say yes? Beautiful, beautiful moment. So that's the Daenerys' genius when it comes to activating the desirability switch. And last one, which is super important and which is the reason everyone loves Jon Snow. So Jon Snow is another character in Game of Thrones. And since we've talked a lot about Daenerys, I think it's enough. I think it's time now to talk a little bit about Jon Snow. Everyone loves Jon Snow. Jon Snow is someone who cannot be corrupted. That's the character of Jon Snow. That's all he does. But really, that's what you need to position yourself as someone who's a strong moral value code, someone who lives and die by their principles, someone who has such strong moral value code that nothing can corrupt them. If you can establish that kind of an aura around you, if you can establish that kind of a image, then you never even have to ask for the sale, because people will want to give you the money because they value you, they value your values and your moral code. So Jon Snow, he was in a situation where everyone wanted him to lie. Every person around him was like, why didn't you just lie? But he stood by and said, I cannot lie. He refuses to lie, because even though everyone hated him, even though we hated him as audiences. But that character of Jon Snow is someone who stands by for his value codes, which might eventually get him killed, but that's besides the point. That strong moral value code is something that you and I and everyone in business should aspire to be, where people look at us and think, you know what, I can give her my money because I know she will never run away with it. I can give her my money because if she says she will give me a refund, she will. I can ask her point blank if the course is for me, and she will refuse me if it's not. I am so honored and gratified. I cannot even express how honored I am when I receive those emails that say, I know, Bushra, you will give me the right guidance. Do you think I should buy a sold out launch? Do you think I should buy mass persuasion method? And I pride myself, and I'm so honored and so grateful that I am in a position where I can actually tell them, no, you should not. With sold out launch, I can't even tell you how many people I had to turn away. There was one person who said, I only have that last bit on my credit card. Shall I go ahead and get that just so I can buy the program? I was like, do not do that. Please don't do that. Even though when that person emailed me, they're expecting me to say, go ahead and do it. They're looking for that permission. But instead, I told them, please don't do that. Just save that for emergency. Save that for anything can happen. Like, don't spend it on a course. And I don't want you to come in with a sense of desperation. So not only have I managed to establish that I have a strong moral value code and I live and die by it, people also expect that from me, and I'm really honored that I actually get to live up to it. So there you have it, the persuasion breakdown of Game of Thrones, of how you can use the principles that characters, even though not real, the characters in Game of Thrones use to persuade others to get things done, and how we can use them in our own life and in our own businesses. I know this was a really good session. I can see that it's a really good session. I can also see it with your hearts and your thumbs up and all of those nice things that you're saying. But if you really enjoyed this session, if you feel like this has some practical tips that could be of value, all you have to do is to press the share button and then broadcast it, share it with your friends, and that small gesture is going to make me happy. It's important, right? Make me happy? No? Okay. Do it because it will make you look cool. Does that work? Either way, I would love for you to share this. And if you want to get your hands on my international best-selling book on persuasion and selling and consumer behavior, it's called Mass Persuasion Method. It's available on bit.ly/mpmbook. Go check it out, get a copy for yourself, and then come back and claim your bonuses worth $800. I'm giving you so much shit in exchange for buying my book. Yes, I am shamelessly bribing you to buy my book, because I know once you buy the book, you will fall in love with me. Yeah, I know there's that I'm giving you that psychological pressure, but it's fine. I'm shameless, doesn't matter. Go check out the book, and I will see you tomorrow with another session of the 30 Days of Persuasion. Hello, YouTube. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and also go buy my book. The psychological tactics and strategies that I share in these videos is unlike anything that you've seen on YouTube, on Google, or even on the entire planet internet. Please take a moment to show me some love, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.